Okay, let's jump right into something that's really top of mind for so many of us, building financial success. You've given us this really interesting source to dive into, an article called Wealth Potpourri.
Yeah,
It promises a mix of insights, and, well, it seems to deliver.
it really does. And the fundamental idea it puts forward is, I think, incredibly liberating. It's basically saying that building wealth isn't some kind of, mystical achievement or just pure luck. It's fundamentally about cultivating specific habits, applying smart strategies consistently, and also understanding the common pitfalls so you can, steer clear of them.
Right. It directly challenges that feeling lots of people have, like being on the outside looking in, like like everyone else got the secret decoder ring for money and you didn't. It
Exactly.
says, look, it's not really about luck. It's about learning and doing. So for this deep dive, our mission is to really unpack the most useful, maybe game-changing nuggets from Wealth Potpourri. The goal is to help you figure out what your next smart money moves could be, and make real headway towards financial freedom.
And what's great about this source is how it covers such wide territory. It looks at everything from, what billionaires supposedly do to lessons hiding in movies and even, yes, using a baking analogy, which we'll get to. It keeps it interesting.
Definitely keeps it from being dry.
Oh,
Okay, so let's dig into that core premise you mentioned. This
let's do.
idea that wealth building often feels like some kind of exclusive club. The source really gets into that feeling, doesn't it? That frustration.
Oh, absolutely.
Working hard, but maybe not seeing the results you expect. Feeling like you're missing some key piece.
It nails that feeling. And what's powerful is how the source immediately counters it. It argues that the secret isn't really access, it's about agency, it's about applying knowledge, understanding the behaviors and systems that consistently build wealth versus those that, well, lead to struggle. It tries to demystify the whole thing.
And that connects directly to something in the Take This With You section.
Hmm.
This idea of working smarter, not harder. The source shares this super relatable story about putting in all these extra hours at a job, just grinding away. But their bank account was basically, and I love this phrase, giving them the side eye.
Yeah, that image really sticks with you, doesn't it? The realization for the author was that sheer effort alone wasn't enough. Not if it was just trading time for money. The shift needed was focusing energy on things that could, compound or build multiple streams, like investing, maybe trading, consciously stacking atom streams. Like a game of Tetris, as they put it.
Like a game of Tetris, it's such a perfect visual. Adding pieces strategically to build something bigger, clear line.
Exactly.
And the source is that realization, that whole journey to understand how to stack those blocks effectively. That's actually what led them to create Wealth Potpourri in the first place,
Right.
to kind of help others maybe avoid some of that initial frustration.
Which leads us naturally to, okay, what are the specific actions beyond just a mindset shift? What concrete habits does the source actually highlight?
Well, it points to a couple of sections that claim to spill the beans on habits. There's one called The Secret to Getting Rich. Apparently, it covers 6 powerful habits that self-made billionaires are said to practice.
Okay, 6 habits from billionaires.
And then there's another section, Broke No More.
Uh,
This one lists 8 different habits described as game-changing that the source suggests really separate people who build wealth from those who, consistently struggle financially.
right. So the big takeaway there is that there are specific, identifiable things, learnable behaviors that seem to make a real difference.
Okay, so you've got the mindset, you're thinking about habits.
Hmm.
What about the actual strategies? Implementing things? The source moves beyond just saving money, right? It has a section called Don't Just Save.
Yeah, and it presents it as a sort of beginner-friendly intro to investing. This part really aims to take the intimidation factor out of investing. It covers stuff from understanding what stocks are, owning tiny bits of companies, to setting up retirement accounts like 401ks or IRAs.
The basic.
The absolute basics. But the core message is clear. Simply putting money aside isn't enough. You need to get that money working for you, compounding.
Makes sense. And if boosting your income is part of your plan, stacking those Tetris blocks, like you said,
Yeah.
the source suggests exploring side hustles that don't suck. It frames these as practical ways to create a bit of a financial cushion, or maybe accelerate your goals.
Right. And it gives specific examples, which is helpful, like freelancing,
Hmm.
offering skills you already have to clients online or locally, and flipping.
Flipping, like houses.
Could be houses, but more likely smaller things. Buying something low, maybe fixing it up, or just finding a better market and selling it higher. These aren't necessarily meant to replace your main income, but to add, significant extra stream.
Okay. adding layers.
Exactly.
There's also a whole section dedicated to real estate. Buying my first property, what I wish I knew earlier.
Hmm.
The Force claims to offer 10 crucial lessons just from that one experience.
And learning those lessons up front, according to the source, could literally save you thousands of dollars and probably a huge amount of stress down the line.
I bet.
They highlight things like understanding the true hidden costs. It's never just the purchase price, right?
Oh, yeah. Closing costs, repairs, taxes.
Exactly. And also demystifying mortgage must-knows, things you really need to understand before signing anything.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. It brings in some unexpected lessons. The source includes a section called Rich Reads Real Wealth and specifically focuses on the movie The Big Short.
Yeah, this is fascinating how they use this movie about the 2008 financial crisis as like a powerful teaching tool. It summarizes the film's perspective, that the crisis wasn't just some random event, some act of nature. It was the result of, reckless financial practices, a lot of greed, and this kind of blind collective faith in a system that was fundamentally shaky.
Right, the whole housing market bubble.
Yeah. Exactly. And of course, the movie highlights the few outsiders who saw this fragility and actually bet against the market. And they made millions when it inevitably crashed.
The why it matters part from the source is particularly sharp here, I thought. It uses The Big Short to really hammer home a point. Just because everyone thinks something is safe, whether it's housing prices always going up or a certain stock being a sure thing, that doesn't mean it actually is safe.
Such a crucial point.
Understanding things like market cycles, being able to assess genuine risk yourself, and recognizing the dangers of herd mentality, basically, just following the crowd without critical thinking. The source presents these as absolutely critical skills to help you avoid getting caught up in, well, future financial disasters.
Which then raises the key question the source poses. Okay, what do you do with that knowledge? And the action step it suggests is powerful because it's a bit countercultural. It says, don't just follow the crowd. It strongly encourages you to question mainstream financial advice. Do your own deep dive before investing.
Dig deep.
Yeah, maybe even learn how to read basic financial statements, which just means understanding a company's financial health beyond the headlines. So you might be able to spot potential problems yourself.
And the hot take on the movie is just perfect, calling it a financial horror flick.
Huh. Yeah.
But then mentioning that truly iconic image of Margot Robbie explaining mortgages in a bubble bath as maybe the most memorable, strangely effective piece of financial education ever. It uses pop culture to make a complex thing stick.
Totally. And speaking of memorable images, the Wealth Whiz, did you know? A
Yeah.
fact from the source is completely wild. Apparently, there's an ATM in Antarctica.
An ATM where the penguins are. That's
Oh, we know. But the source uses that fact brilliantly, doesn't it?
how so?
Well, it connects it to the idea of how incredibly pervasive and accessible financial infrastructure really is today. I mean, it reaches even the most remote places on Earth.
Wow.
So the source then poses this great rhetorical question. If there's literally an ATM down south where penguins are presumably, I don't know, stacking fish and trying to fund their winter getaway, what's your excuse for not starting to build some passive income?
Okay, I see the point.
That's money you earn without actively working for it every single day, no matter where you happen to be.
That's such a great, slightly absurd, but effective nudge.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah, no excuses, basically.
And finally, the Wealth Potpourri wildcard section
Mm.
gives us this personal story called My Bread Trilogy.
Ah, yes, the bread analogy. This is such a relatable metaphor for the whole wealth-building journey. The author talks about their first attempts at baking bread, and they were just total failures.
Right.
One loaf turned out like a rock-solid brick. Another one apparently had no roof, just collapsed, complete flops.
Been there with baking, definitely.
Me too. But then, after learning one small, crucial detail, I think it was about using the correct temperature water for the yeast, suddenly their bread finally came out perfectly, golden brown, risen, everything.
Okay, so how does that relate?
Well, the source uses this to illustrate that building wealth, it's often not about getting it exactly right on the first try. Your initial investment might not perform like you hoped. That first side hustle might, fizzle out.
You might hit those rock-solid bricks or have a no-roof moment financially.
Exactly. But the powerful point the source makes is that those aren't just failures. They're actually learning opportunities. With each attempt, You learn something. You make small tweaks to your approach. You refine your recipe, so to speak.
Ah, I like that. Refining the recipe.
And you get better, moving closer to what the source calls your golden, perfectly risen wealth strategy. It really emphasizes patience and persistence, learning through trial and error.
Okay, so pulling all these different threads together from this deep dive into wealth potpourri, we've definitely covered a lot of ground.
We really have. We looked at that core message first. Financial success isn't some secret club, right? It's
Right.
about deliberate habits and strategies.
Yeah, and we talked about the shift, moving from just working harder to working smarter by intentionally stacking those income streams, like Tetris. We really felt that struggle the source described.
hmm And we touched on the specific habit insights they apparently gathered from billionaires and other wealth builders, the concrete things people do.
And then we explored actual strategies, like how to get started with investing basics, even if it feels intimidating. Building some financial resilience with side hustles like freelancing or flipping, practical stuff.
Right. And those crucial lessons about buying property, potentially saving you a lot of pain and money later on.
Plus, we used the Big Short example. That was great. Using it as a lens to understand why you need to question the crowd sometimes. Recognizing market risks, maybe even, digging into financial statements yourself.
Don't forget the ATM in Antarctica.
Huh, never. That unforgettable image reminding us about just how accessible financial tools are now. And that little push to start building passive income no matter what.
And maybe most importantly, that My Bread trilogy story, reminding us all that the journey involves trial and error. It's okay if things don't work out perfectly the first time.
Right. Each attempt teaches you something vital.
Mm,
Financial success, as this source really illustrates, it's truly a process of continuous learning and, crucially, taking action.
absolutely. So to leave you, our listener, with something to consider from this rich potpourri of ideas, think about that My Bread trilogy analogy for a second. In your own financial journey right now, where are you maybe encountering those frustrating, rock-solid brick moments,
Yeah.
or those no-roof setbacks? And then ask yourself, what small, maybe seemingly insignificant tweak, like figuring out the right water temperature for the yeast, what small tweak might be the key breakthrough you need for your next step forward?
That's a great question. Or maybe reflect on that ATM in Antarctica again. If financial infrastructure is that widespread, reaching the ends of the earth, what tiny, actionable step can you take, maybe even today, towards building your own passive income stream, regardless of where you are or where you're starting from?